All right, welcome back again. After 4 hours of live streaming yesterday, I'm here again with Simone, Federica, and welcome again to Mark. And this is the episode number 28, season 2 of Digital, right, Simone?
I think so. Or 29. Oh, no, I think 28. I think you're right.
Okay. So just let's make sure we are not losing the numbers.
I'm losing count.
You know, in amounts, less than amounts, we celebrate 1 year of digital live streaming on FunnelTV.
We started in October, right?
Congratulations, guys. Well done.
Happy birthday.
Like a birthday. That's true.
Mark, we got to plan a big party for that. Where should we do this? In your swimming pool or, I don't know, where?
How about on the beach, clear water?
Yeah, why not? I will take a flight right now to Florida. You know.
Well, you guys can come here, but we can't come there, right? So it has to be here. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Guys, I watched a good portion of what you did yesterday, and I must say it was one of the most impressive educational pieces on hospitality distribution I have ever seen. It was such a good job. I learned stuff. I mean, you had people on there that were right in the beginning. Talk to the vacation rental guys. I mean, you know, they're an emerging industry. They were talking about how they're going to monitor it in the future, how they're going to manage it. It was really cool. Thank you for that. I really appreciated it.
Actually, that chapter in particular, I love it. I mean, Simon, it's brilliant. This guy, I don't know if you had the same feeling, Simone.
Oh, yeah.
Simon, it's a huge guy. But also, of course, Piero.
It's in the name.
Yeah, it's and in this industry from the vacation rental point of view. So I really suggest you guys, if you are watching now the digital and you had no chance to follow the live streaming yesterday, Federica will share the link in the comments. So make sure you get that and take all the contents. You know, it's free. So right, Simone, what do you think?
How this is going to work? Are you going to divide it in chapters, or this will be like a huge 4 hours?
No, I'm going to divide it. I'm going to divide it in 5 chapters. The link Federica is sharing right now is just the link of LinkedIn one. But what I'm doing now, I'm cutting the entire session in 5 chapters. So that will be available on YouTube, and we will share that also on LinkedIn and so on. But
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely will be much easier to digest because maybe someone is more interested to a particular chapter topic and not in any other one, so they can consume the contents the way they prefer. So,
Simone, you can use that in your lecturing. Sorry, Fede.
No, don't worry. No, just wanted to say that it's difficult to choose between one chapter and another because they were really brilliant and they were full of high quality content. It was really exciting to take part of that, and I think it's really amazing. And I received also a lot of comments, and everybody was enthusiastic about it. So I'm happy.
That's good.
Cool. Right, Simone. At this point, just give us a couple of advice on your 10 news today, which are somewhat relevant.
Yeah, so last week, as I told you, after 1 month break, I wanted to have a coronavirus-free episode, and but now we have so many news that we didn't talk about and about the virus and what is going on. So I would say that 70% of the news are about the virus, and then we got something about new IPOs, of course, and something going on with OTAs.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay, let's have a quick break and then we'll introduce your guest. Okay?
Yep.
My name is Erin, and she talks. $10 was.
Right. Welcome, Kate. Welcome, Jaclyn. And you are on board and live right now, FunnelTV. And thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
So thank you so much, guys. And maybe you want to say a couple of words about yourself, Kate, Commercial Director, Europe and Middle East at Skift, and Jaclyn. That's the right pronunciation. Jaclyn. I used to have a girlfriend named Jaclyn. That is why this is so hard to me. But this was way back in the day when I was young.
Yeah,
When
I'm
I was,
going to leave the room if you start this conversation, man.
I was very young. This was even before I met you, Enzo. So it was like,
I'm jealous,
Yeah. Founder and CEO of Ecomadic. Jaclyn, let's start with you. Let's describe yourself in a couple of sentences.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Jaclyn. I'm the founder and CEO of Ecomadic. I'm also a forever student. So once I graduated from university, I've kept hopping from master's to master's. And now I'm based in Washington, D.C., and I specialize in sustainable tourism.
That's very good. That's very good. Kate, so a couple of sentences.
Thanks for having me. So happy to be here. I am the commercial director for Skift, and I look after Europe and the Middle East. And I'm like an avid traveler, a tech kind of obsessive. So happy to be here and talking to you guys today.
That's great. That's great. Okay, guys, we will have a lot of time at the end of the show to interview you and know more about yourself. You know how the show works. We will start with talking about some news in travel, and I will stop you from time to time to have some comments or your point of view about what is going on, okay? And I think you can share my screen, Enzo. Before we start, this is a sad day. It's been 19 years. Next year will be 20 years. I think there's not much we can do here except for maybe 30 seconds of silence. So if you want to join me in 30 seconds of silence, I will totally appreciate that. And thank you so much for that. Okay, let's start with something a little less sad. Well, not really, because as I told you, we got a lot of coronavirus related news this week. And the first one, I don't know if you guys heard about that, but it looks like there is one man in Hong Kong that became the first person to have gotten coronavirus twice. Have you heard about that, Jaclyn?
No, you were actually one of the first to tell me that. It's kind of scary, though. It is very scary.
It looks like, for what I understood, it looks like he didn't even realize. So the problem is that they're not so sure now about immunity, but it looks like the second time around is not as brutal as the first one. Mm-hmm. And Kate, have you heard about that?
Yeah, I read about it, I think a couple of days before you noticed it. And it's interesting because we kind of knew that when you recover from something, you do increase your immunity, but it's never guaranteed like what level of immunity you're going to get, how long it's going to last. So there was always going to be maybe conversation that you can catch it once or twice, but actually having the proof that someone's put it again, it just kind of crystallizes it. So it's going to be interesting to see how many more of these cases come through.
And let's face it, this is a new virus. I mean, we don't have many information yet. You know, it's let's face it. I know we all want a cure, we all want a vaccine, but this virus has been around for less than 1 year. It's just incredible just to think about what we were able to do with just this little amount of time, right?
Yeah, I think also it notes that he was actually the Hong Kong-based man who went to Spain. And he was actually detected, I think, on his return coming through the airport. He had no symptoms. He hadn't identified that he had returned. So it just goes to show that these airport kind of scans are going to be vital in detecting. And are we going to see more and more of that?
When is the last time you guys fly?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago? Okay.
Mine was back in March. I came back from Asia, and I haven't been on a plane since.
Okay, so that's a pretty long time. You, Kate?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I flew out to Ibiza. So I'm currently in quarantine now for another short period because we have 2 weeks quarantining when coming back from Spain. And it was really strange. The airport was quiet, slow. I was very impressed, especially getting off the other side, the level and the organisation that they have set up. I was looked over by a medical professional. I had my temperature taken. All my documents were checked. I felt very safe and confident flying.
It's good to hear. Very good to hear. I've heard the same from people traveling within the US. They're really impressed by what everyone is doing to ensure safety and so on. It's good to hear. The industry is taking care.
Mm-hmm.
This is news number 6, but it's connected to what we're saying, so maybe we can talk about it now. And there is this recent study, and according to the study, the risk of actually catching coronavirus on a full flight is 1 out of 4,300.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remove the middle seat, this is 1 in 7,700. So the odds are quite low anyway, right?
Let's remove the middle seat. I want to be more space. Come on, this is a good point. I think it's the right time now for low-cost flight to improve the accommodation, guys. Every time I have those short flight, 1 hour, 2 hours, it's true that it's a very short time, but it's always like sitting in a situation like that. Unfortunately, I'm not a business class man so far, so this COVID at some point should bring some changing behavior and way we serve people. So let's remove this bloody middle seat and let's make customer more comfortable. That's my
But can I tell you something? Last time I flew without the middle seat, and right now what the middle seat is all about is to bring your bags. So basically you don't have a human being next to you, but you have a pile of bags. So it's pretty much the same, exactly the same thing. In terms of safety, yes, great. In terms of comfort, doesn't change that much. Huh?
And maybe also in terms of revenue, if we think, of course, that if we have 1 seat less to sell, of course, you have less revenue. Maybe an impact on that could be that prices rise. So, but of course, we need to think about safety and always to find a good balance between safety, revenue, and everything is now is the focus, is the key.
Yeah, I heard that from a couple of people who were traveling that the business class was full, but the back was empty or whatever. So it was like the people who went in business class who paid more were actually closer to the people who they were in the back.
Okay,
I think your point is interesting about like how is this going to affect revenue for the airlines who are already in a predicament right now, but the toss up between flying and not flying. Obviously, you're going to take that middle seat out so you can fly, or when people are looking and choosing flights, because we still have a community of travellers that are 50% scared and apprehensive about taking flights. So do we then? They're going to start looking for those kind of extra things the airline are going to do to make them feel a bit more secure about their trip. So I think it's really going to be a tightrope and a balance for them to walk, for sure.
Yeah, I know that statistic made me a lot more comfortable and made me reconsider. Yeah. So
well, let me put this on perspective. The odds of being struck by a lightning in your own lifetime is 1 out of 300. So it's way more likely that you got stuck by a lightning in your lifetime that you get coronavirus on a plane.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging. Thank you.
Let's look at the half full glass. Okay, let's go to number 2. This is kind of good news, and we talked a lot yesterday about vacation rental. When we talk about vacation rental, we talk about this Airbnb IPO, of course. And there is this study by marketers expecting that the numbers of Airbnb users could recover to pre-pandemic levels as soon as 2021. And there's been a lot of talking about when we could see 2019 levels in the hospitality industry. When it comes to hotels, a lot of people is saying 2022, 2023. Some people is even going to 2024 or 2025. It's interesting to me that apartments are not suffering as much as hotels during this pandemic. So, Kate, do you have any take on that?
Yeah, to kind of answer the question about kind of Airbnb versus hotel, if you think the common fear at the moment is that like that face-to-face contact, human connection, and then high frequency touch points that you're kind of meeting people or touching something that someone else can touch, that all gets removed when you're in an Airbnb, right? As long as it's nicely cleaned and everything's to a good standard, it kind of negates some of that risk. What I think is, I love hearing things like this because it does fill you with some hope, and you're like, okay, we're heading in the right direction, and we're making moves on where we were in March. But if you think about where we are, the industry and the sector as a whole it's in a state of, it's kind of highly volatile, right? It's so fluid. I think this is an optimistic statement. We definitely can't go based on the last 2 months numbers that we see. This is going to be fine by 2021 because we've just been in summer. Like the only way that we could travel is probably domestically. The whole choices have changed. I think that it could use them as a marker, but we definitely shouldn't use this as a blueprint for everything. But it's warming to hear this, right? Everyone must have read this and gone, oh, some good news, some green shoots, we're kind of going in the right direction. But I'm just skeptical. It relies on like the summer months continuing to be good, the vaccine coming, no additional waves of infection. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I can agree with you. Jaclyn, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I think it's very optimistic and it's very hopeful, and it gave some sort of bright light to look forward to. But I do agree that it's just projections at this point. And as we were talking about earlier, this this pandemic is less than a year old, so we have no idea how it's going to evolve in the future, and especially coming into the winter months. So I think it's only time will tell, but hopefully we'll keep moving in the right direction. I noticed the trends for Airbnb amongst even just my peers, that most people are more comfortable there than hotels.
And we had this, when we were talking about vacation rental yesterday, they say that for a lot of them, they actually made more revenue during the pandemic than before the pandemic. And of course, there is difference between destination and destination, but it kind of makes sense, like people, they want to have less human interaction and they want a more touchless experience. And that is why Jim Cramer from CNBC stated that thanks to COVID-19, Airbnb is now the safest way to travel. Do not necessarily agree with that, but that being said, which is why he continues, the IPO might end up being the steal of the century. And this is really my big question, like Airbnb IPO has been, the idea of the IPO has been around for 4 years now, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. So it's fascinating to me that they are going with an IPO right now, right? And I think they are leveraging this good wave that they're getting because of hotels and guests being less open to travel to hotels, right? So, Kate, I don't know if you agree with that, but you think this is probably the best year for an Airbnb and IPO?
Look, I think if you look at the history of Airbnb, and it's well documented, obviously in the press, but it's a journey of bumps and travels and challenges. Like they've never not had to face something. So I think if the pandemic hadn't hit, would we have seen the IPO earlier? Maybe, who knows? But like at the moment, given the role that they're playing in the industry in this pandemic, actually, it's a genius idea. They're kind of leading the way. They're now the safest way to travel. And Simone, I agree with you. Like, are they? I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I partially agree. But maybe this is perfect timing for them, and it's the opportunity and the potential that they're kind of getting out into the possibilities of this IPO.
Yeah, Jaclyn?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I feel like right now it's a good time to kind of take chances and almost kind of pursue the things that you wanted to, and it's a business opportunity where you can kind of have some downtime and go about it and moving forward into the future of what they want it to be. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting time. Back to what you said about being the safest way to travel, I think that's just like dependent on the traveler and what they can do. But I think it's what they're doing when they're actually in that destination. Maybe they're just going a little bit stir crazy in their own apartment and want to go somewhere else. So I definitely see how it all aligns.
It's interesting because I think Marriott's CEO said exactly the opposite. So he said Airbnb,
right?
and I can't remember exactly the quote, but he said something like apartment will never be able to give the same level of cleanliness and safety of hotels. And so who knows who's right?
I think it's your perspective. I think hotels are very communal, and you're bound to run into other people there. So it's just what people are comfortable with and how you view the situation.
Yeah,
I agree. I think hotels do offer a whole range of standards and hygiene levels, and now changing the way that they operate on a day-to-day basis. I don't think short-term rental and Airbnb is going to just take over everything. But at the moment, if you're an apprehensive traveller, then an Airbnb is going to look quite good, as long as it's a decent, probably level of Airbnb that is well cleaned and got the right facilities. It's a good option.
When you travel, do you guys rent apartments or you're hotel people?
I'm always Airbnb or support smaller and local places.
Okay. UK?
Yeah. Mine's mixed. It depends who I'm traveling with. I have 2 small children, so sometimes an Airbnb is great. If I'm traveling for work, then it's normally a hotel.
Federica?
I'm hotel people, yeah. I like to support the industry, and also because I'm always curious to go in new hotels to see how they're handling the customer journey and everything. So I always go with a critical eye, and sometimes I like to discuss the way they're doing things, and curiosity is at the base.
Mark?
I'm a hotel guy. Totally. I love to be served. Maybe I'm lazy, but I just love hospitality. I love to be taken care of. I love to see smiling faces. I will say, if anyone watched the vacation rental section from yesterday, there's a big controversy in that space right now, as we're all talking about Airbnb as if it's the vacation rental only solution.
Yeah.
And I was amazed to watch and to hear what the vacation rental industry was saying about Airbnb, and that it needs to be controlled. That we talk about cleanliness. Airbnb talks about cleanliness, but where's the proof in that? It was very controversial, and I do ask anyone that is interested to have a look at yesterday's segment. It kind of blew my mind because it made me realize that, I could just give a room here in my house. I got a little apartment here. I could just rent that out. But what's the safety measure for the people who come and stay with me?
With that shirt, I will not trust you. That's the safety measure.
Well,
Just remember that what drives America is the dollar. So whatever you can do to get the dollars, right? And if it means wearing a silly shirt like this, I'm happy to do it.
But like when we talk about Airbnb, we're talking about, I think it's like when you say Google something, Google it.
Yeah.
And we are we're using a verb but we're not necessarily saying Google it. It could be Bing it, or or Yahoo it, or whatever. So I think it's just at some point I think it's just semantics. But I hear what you're saying, that there should be more regulation. And I'm a hotel guy. I hate apartments with a passion, and I always had the few times I travel in apartments, I always had very bad experiences, and because of the lack of regulation. That is not saying that I didn't have terrible experience in hotels, but I tend to feel safer in hotel. That you can book another one. That you can, if something is wrong, you kind of are in the market, so you know how to handle it. With an apartment, you're kind of lost. And when I first moved to Paris, I lived in a super tiny studio. It was 11 square meters, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And it was on Airbnb, and it was
sleeping standing like that,
Yeah, it was because it's very hard to rent an apartment in Paris, so it took me a while to find something, and it was the most miserable days of my life. So, but again, that's me. Let's move to number 4.
Sounds like you had a bad experience.
There's a good out there for you. You need to try again.
Yeah,
Always like
yeah. On the other hand, I remember I was in New York once, and I had this amazing apartment in Manhattan, and that was great. But that was really exceptional, and I really like Federica. I really like to see the operation going on in the hotels. Even when I travel for holidays, I like to know that I am in a hotel rather than an apartment. So I know it's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting. According to the CDC, a vaccine to at-risk groups and healthcare workers could be distributed as soon as late October or early November. So I know there's been a lot of talking about having the vaccine before the election. But on the other end, and this is a survey by NBC, it looks like only 44% of Americans would get a vaccine. So we got this dichotomy here, and Kate and Jaclyn, you live in the US. You can maybe tell me a little more about what is the perception of the vaccine over there.
Yeah, so it's an interesting topic for me. I was listening to a podcast yesterday because it's like, if you choose to get the vaccine or not, does that make you an anti-vaxxer, or, so it's just an interesting, but I think that it's almost becoming just political for the US at this time. Coronavirus has definitely brought out two very opposing sides for the US, to say the least. So I just think that it's going to be a lot of political preference and who you choose to go by guidance.
Kate.
In the UK, it's an interesting view. It's probably less politically driven than in the US, but like anti-vaxxers are not a percentage of our population. So when this vaccine's ready and how it's communicated is probably going to obviously indicate how many people say yes to it. The other thing that I think is going to be interesting is if they start to dictate travel by having a vaccine, e.g. you can travel if you have been vaccinated. If that's more into play somehow, that will obviously have a huge effect. But yeah, I'm interested. Again, I look at this and I look at it and think this is wildly optimistic. I know they've been working on it tirelessly since it came out, but yeah, I can't see this actually being a thing and coming out from the election.
Yeah, but that leads to another question. Do you think it would be a good idea to make the vaccine mandatory for travelers?
There's probably a whole bunch of questions around human rights that I'm probably not well informed enough to kind of dive into that question. I do think it's a possibility for countries to consider. They're going to be super protective as we kind of come to the end of this pandemic and go into recovery. They're going to want to be prepared for this in the future. So I think it will be a topic of conversation. I think there are certain countries and borders that just won't entertain that idea, but then I suspect some people will really try and add it to their agenda.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I agree with Kate when she's saying that. I think that it could have a lot of implications if you were to make that mandatory, especially for people who might not necessarily believe in that. I mean, I believe in vaccinations and whatnot, but I think that there needs to be a lot more studies. I think that it's really pushing it, and people are really, really trying to like speed up the process to come back to some sort of normalcy. But yeah, I don't think it would be good to actually make that mandatory.
I also think that we're living in an era of like mistrust. Like how the pandemic has been delivered to the public or globally. And I think we talk about this in one of the topics coming up soon. But like, I don't feel like I'm well informed by the British government. And I'm sure there's lots of people around the world that are kind of feeling like they are told selective bits of information about this. So we're starting from a place of mistrust. So you add a conversation about vaccines in there. And like, there's a long way to go. We really need to build that trust relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
I hear your point. Okay.
No, I just wanted to say that it's interesting that in Italy we have a similar percentage, because it seems that 4 people out of 10 don't want to do the vaccine. So this trend is also in other countries, just to to give another data and to know worldwide what is going on. I don't know in other countries, but in mine, I read some days ago that there is this feedback, this reply to the vaccine.
Check if there's any similar study for the UK, so we can check with Kate as well. Okay, let's go to number 5, Wechat, and this is kind of very connected to what we were saying before, Kate, and mistrust, especially with governments. Wechat has been censoring conversation on the coronavirus pandemic.
This blew my mind. When you sent it over, I was like, what? Like, I haven't read this. This was not on my radar. And once I started looking, like, I was shocked.
Did it? I mean, I was kind of expecting that.
Oh, maybe you're more trusting. I'm more trusting. Not to the extent, like the one sentence I read, which blew my mind, was that they hid at the very beginning when this was all coming out of Wuhan, they hid the fact that this was passed human to human. They just removed that kind of fact out of the whole dialogue. And that's vital, right? If people would have known that, could we have slowed down the spread? Could we have stopped it? Like, I don't know, but yeah, this was news to me for sure.
That's a rabbit hole you're going through.
Yeah, you can definitely dig yourself into a rabbit hole with this one. Personally, actually, this was really interesting for me because I was actually living in Hong Kong when the virus first broke out. So I did see a lot of differences in how it was managed, especially when everyone just thought it was contained in China. And I was just traveling around recklessly around Southeast Asia almost, because I think the censoring that went on really, really did prevent a lot of countries to act faster, which I think could have prevented the disease from spreading. So it blew my mind, but I kind of had like some sort of sneaking suspicion.
Yeah. But that says a lot, the fact that we suspect that says a lot about our relationship with governments in general. I think it's even worse, the fact that it doesn't blow our mind, that we are almost expecting that, right?
Yeah. And I mean, just the news the other day where Trump was kind of talking about how he knew how deadly the disease was back in February. So it kind of happens everywhere.
Oh yeah, totally. Don't get Mark started on that.
No, I was just like, when I heard the word, I was like, it's just, we can't go there, I'm afraid. It's just not, we could be controversial, but is it worth it?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Off camera.
But I always say, we got a solution, and Mark knows it very well. We take Elon Musk and we make him president of the United States, and things will go way better.
We move faster. We can talk with our minds. I mean, come on, let him go.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys, maybe we can do a 1-minute break and then we start again. Enzo?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. we really need to change this teaser. It scared the shit out of me every time.
Guys.
And Simone, before going to the 6 news, I have the data on UK. It seems that there are only 50% of people wants to get the vaccine. So the percentage of refusal
It's even higher. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, we got number 6 already, so we go to number 7. That's kind of an interesting one. So looks like Fortune wants to bring Thomas Cook back from the dead as an OTA. My main question is, do we really need another OTA, Kate?
Great question. This is interesting because they talked about this, November, December last year. And they have always kind of gone forward with the fact that we're going to relaunch. So it's interesting they're waiting until now. I thought they would have waited longer. I thought they would wait until next year. But I struggle to think that this can be relaunched and kind of settle back into the travel ecosystem and carry on. Like the name here in the UK and Europe is a bad negative vibes. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm interested, but I'm not holding my breath that this is going to be a huge success.
Yeah, that's a
Good
way to say that. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
In your session yesterday, someone explained Thomas Cook's relevance to our industry. He's literally the man that started the package tour industry, and it's gone through so many transitions and changes and so on. But I even remember doing history here when I was involved in tourism locally in Florida. And Thomas Cook's name over here was one of the first people to bring people over to the islands and so on. I would love to see a revival of ethical tourism in this way. And that name, if people can remember, there's so much history, there's so much good history, positive. I'd love to see it out there, but I'm with Kate. I just don't know whether it's there anymore. It's going to cost millions to brand.
Yeah.
Put it out.
And the competition is first. I mean,
maybe Amazon will take it on.
But I got an idea. You know what could be a great idea? Transform Thomas Cook into an assistant, like an AI assistant, where, it was the first guy to bring people to Florida. It could be the first guy to give some tips about restaurants in Florida, or you just can go and step by Mark's and got one of his famous hamburgers or something like that. But I think you got this amazing brand that has been around for almost 200 years now. And I think it's a waste that it got lost like that. On the other end, I'm thinking if building another OTA is really the answer, or this will be another favor.
Simone, I tell you my view on this, and it is also the reason why I was setting up the event yesterday, talking about distribution. Of course, if we look at the scenario before pandemic, I agree. I mean, why having another OTA? But it's also true, on the other hand, strategically speaking, that this tight distribution was ending in the hand of few selected company, and actually they were, dominating and doing kind of monopoly in the distribution. So talking about big giant like Booking, Expedia, HRS, and so on. And we all know that if you look at 20 years ago when the distribution began online, and I was actually working in the hotel like you, and I remember there were a lot of OTA bringing a lot of business. Of course, the same volume of business now is not through 20 OTAs, through 3-4. But I think now that this pandemic put down the entire world, the entire industry down on the bottom line again. And from some point of view, I think we are back on 20 years ago now. So where hotels now are looking at to redesign the way they were distributing, trying to not repeat the same mistake. And of course, I think now we are at a point where and this is always a complaint made by hoteliers, that the cost of intermediation was increased and increased and increased tremendously, till nowadays that this is not sustainable anymore. And now that those big giants are suffering, of course, we all love Booking and Expedia. Don't get me wrong, but now it's a time where maybe there's a space for some new company with new concept, with new benefits, or whatever you want to call that, bringing some innovation and some alternative. Otherwise, we go back at the recovery stage, and we're back at the same situation we were before, where Booking and Expedia are eating 80% of the market, where they are deciding the way they want to commission and eat hotels in revenue, and the hotels are going back again at the same point. So where they're complaining that all those big giants are deciding the good and the bad weather, they are deciding the cost of distribution. There is no way hotels can try to balance and optimize the way they distribute. And I think now it's a good moment for a company like Fosun is trying to revamp Thomas Cook or whatever, to give an opportunity to the distribution to change in a better way, and of course trying to turn this hospitality into a sustainable intermediation. I think we don't need another OTA. We need a better distribution ecosystem now, and if a new OTA may bring some innovation with a better, structure, business model, fast and scalable, and can become a good opportunity for hotel to sell an extra room to a new piece of the market for a better cost, for a lower cost, I think we have to look at this perspective much more positive.
Something is going to change, of course. I mean, my 2 cents is that companies that will get the best out of this pandemic, will be companies with a lot of data. That is why, and I always tell you the same thing, but to me that is going to be Google. The problem with OTA model right now is that they own the very bottom funnel of the reservation, right? They don't own the search as they used to, and this is something that Google is taking over with Google Travel, for example, or with the results in the SERP. I think the main difference here is about the quantity of data we share with Google. But I agree with you that probably distribution as we know it today will not survive the pandemic. There will be something different, and this could be even a new player or an old player changing the skin, or this could be somebody like Google or Amazon or Facebook finally taking the last step and taking the reservation as well, and de facto becoming a top, mid, and bottom funnel huge OTA on steroids. But let's see. That is my 2 cents. I could be totally off here.
That's more than 2 cents, Simone. That's a big one. Thank you.
So we got a question from FND. Hello from Bali. Very sorry to hear that Bali's closed up until 2020, if I'm right.
Yeah.
2 giants from West, Booking and Expedia, versus 2 giants from East, Trip and Fosun. Kind of far fight ahead, just my thought. Yeah, Trip.com is quite big. Fosun is quite big. Yeah,
we have to also take this in consideration. It's true that many times on top of our mind is Expedia, Booking, and so on. But let's not forget that we are based in Europe. We know the ecosystem, hoteliers, people in the industry talking about more or less same things, also due to the way and the place we live. So as we know, Facebook is not the same in China. So maybe in China, it's Trip.com, is not Expedia. So at the end, the diversity is here important, just to create a sane competition. And of course, but my point is always going back to the sustainability of the intermediation. That's the aim. I think that's where we have to drive the industry in the future, where hotels have more power, more control, flexible way to decide where and how and at which cost to distribute and sell their rooms. And because so far it's not like that, definitely, we know that. So something that has to change. And I think that nobody wants to have this pandemic, but let's take the best we can now and cross finger that market is going to improve in that point of view.
I never remember who said never let a good crisis go to waste. I think it was probably Churchill.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I believe that.
It wasn't me. No.
I think so. Okay, so let's speed it up a little so I have some time to interview you guys. So number 8, TripAdvisor launched a contactless menu feature for restaurants. I don't think there's much to say here. Number 9, though, this is quite interesting because according to Glenn Fogel, the business travel decline could help the company that can benefit from more hotel room inventory available for leisure travelers. I don't agree with that. So I don't know, Kate, if you can comment on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of get what he's trying to say. I don't necessarily agree. This kind of feels like a very flat point. Of course, you can from one side to the other. The issue we have at the moment, I believe, is that no one's traveling for business right now, and we don't know when that's going to recover. Leisure will come back first. I can't see companies sending people away to travel right now. So yeah, I think that summarizes how I feel about it. It's like, of course, if you don't have a corporate traveller, you have a leisure traveller, but there has to be travellers. So let's get to that point.
But I think this would have made sense, like if there was a coronavirus only for corporate travelers. Okay, so that makes sense. Or for any reason we don't travel for work. Otherwise, I don't see the connection. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a very dry attempt of just trying to remind people that they're still out there and they have rooms available.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes total sense.
Yeah. A nice positive spin on how they're looking at things right now, that there's still opportunity for their business and there's still potential in what the product that they have, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, let's go to number 10. Then we have some time to interview you guys. So this is something I wrote for the guys at Hotels Mag, and it's just my 2 cents about the fact if coronavirus is accelerating or decelerating innovation. And my 2 cents are that for a lot of hotels, this was the first time they had contact with technologies such as self-check-in kiosks, keyless entry, touchless technology. And so in a way is accelerating innovation in hotels. On the other end, we have so many companies, so many travel tech companies firing so many people that I think if the situation doesn't stop, at some point we will get out of great ideas and innovation. So I would like to have your 2 cents on that. Kate, do you think coronavirus is accelerating or decelerating the innovation in the travel space?
When this question was kind of asked, I was looking at both of those words you used, and I actually feel that it's more somewhere in the middle, where we're actually looking at this kind of rapid adoption phase. We're not reinventing the wheel, we're not innovating, we're not kind of pushing that. But what we are seeing is like the technologies you kind of just pointed out in the hospitality space. We have people reluctant to adopt that, and now they've kind of been forced into this situation because of the pandemic, where they have to look at that. It's kind of given everyone a little bit of quiet and pause and thought, okay, when the travellers come back, what are they going to be looking for? And contactless, kind of this big transition, very digital focus, moving lots of kind of human-based operational stuff out is definitely the way forward to capture in recovery. So I don't think it's necessarily kind of accelerating or decelerating, but I also agree with your point that as we've seen more and more people going on furlough or being let go of different businesses, it feels like innovation is probably not the priority right now for a lot of people. It's more about survival of the fittest and, okay, what can I get now to kind of make sure that if we get into another crisis situation, we're kind of the strongest we can be. So yeah, I put my money on down the middle.
Okay, Jaclyn, do you agree with Kate?
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I also just think you have to look at it from a perspective of the people who can actually afford to innovate. So I think like from a lot of the conversations that I've been having with smaller businesses, it's a really big learning curve for them to try to adapt to all these demands. So I think I think eventually, like it's really just people trying to fight to survive right now. But I don't think that it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's innovative. I think that it's the opposite, actually.
Okay, that's great. Jaclyn, let's stay with you. So let's talk a little about Ecomadic. So tell me more about what you do and what is the company about.
Yeah, so actually like 4 years ago, I moved to Southeast Asia after I graduated from university, and I had this vision of having like an eco-friendly trip advisor, because when I was traveling around, it just took so long to find all these amazing sustainable places, but I knew that they were out there. But at the same time, sometimes I would show up to quote unquote eco places and they would hardly have any measures being implemented. So I enrolled in my first master's and I focused on greenwashing in the international hospitality and tourism space. So I did my research, my dissertation on that, and then had Ecomadic as a blog where I was kind of just highlighting green business stories, selling souvenirs through my marketplace. So after I finished my first master's, I went into redevelopment with my business model. We just relaunched in July, and so we're really taking the opposite of an OTA strategy, and we're just really building from the ground up. So we're a bookings and reviews platform that connects sustainably minded travelers with responsible businesses. So we're just trying to have a collection of eco accommodations, socially responsible eateries, social enterprise shopping, ethical tours, responsible travel curators, and pre-carbon offset transport. And then we also are just trying to educate the market as well. But what makes us unique is that we're personally onboarding every business that comes onto our platform. So that's why it's slow growth. But I just really want to ensure that our community stays trustworthy and credible, and that when travelers go, that they know whatever place that they're finding on our platform will be pre-screened and checked beforehand, so that they can make a better impact and spend their money where it matters the most.
So it's some kind of marketplace where I can go and find the most sustainable places to sleep. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can definitely find it's almost like a eco-friendly trip advisor, quote unquote. Right now we're operating on an inquiry basis because we were supposed to launch in March and then COVID happened. So we kind of that threw us for a little bit of a loop. So now we're really starting to focus on the US market. We're actually about to go on a cross-country road trip and just onboard a bunch of US businesses. I just think that supporting smaller to medium-sized and local businesses is what's really going to help recoup the economy, and that they need the most help right now. So yeah, that's our mission. Just really trying to make sustainable tourism accessible and really educating the market for what it truly looks like.
And how do you choose the accommodations? Like, what is the process of getting these hotels on board?
So when I was operating it as a blog, it would just be places that I was coming upon when I was traveling. So now we actually have a bunch of research interns. So they're researching a bunch all over the world. We're kind of focusing a little bit less on international travel now that I've come back. Reach out to them, usually have an interview, kind of gauge what their mission and their value and their mindsets are, what their sustainability practices looks like within their business. And then if they're interested in Ecomadic and becoming a partner, we build out their profile and just start to showcase what they're doing and what type of impact that they're trying to make through their business operations.
So I can have this information live if I go. Can you see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
So if I go here, and let's say I want an accommodation in city, and I have this one. Where can I find what this hotel is doing in terms of sustainability?
If you go to Eat and Work Shop, if you click on their profile, it will take you to their profile, and then it will kind of showcase what their mission is, how they started. And then if you scroll down, Sorry, I think it's just because it's shortened. But if you scroll down, there's going to be what their environmental, their economic, and their sociocultural practices are. And then we also have little icons down there that kind of says exactly what they are doing, and which is minimizing their environmental impact. Their actually Eat and Workshop really focuses on social impact within DC and Hong Kong, and really so we just really try to place an emphasis on what their sustainability measures are from all different perspectives, not just environmental.
Yeah, sure. And from here, you can visit the website, email directly to the client. So it's just a way to put in direct contact travelers that are interested in sustainable travel and properties that are doing their best, right?
Yes, definitely. And everyone that's on my team is expert-led and trained in sustainable tourism. So we really do have a process of ensuring that it stays credible and trustworthy.
So what are the next steps for the company?
Yeah, so I'm actually a student at George Washington University still, and we just finished the accelerator program. So right now we're kind of just talking with VCs and investors. We really want to showcase the responsible businesses that are on our platform right now and really build up that credibility and that name brand recognition, so people can start to learn who we are and what we're doing, while simultaneously going into agile development and building an optimized tech platform. So we can't compete against the Airbnbs and the TripAdvisors of the world, because user experience at the end of the day is what businesses and travelers will want. So yeah, right now we're just kind of, with COVID, we are not really accepting bookings. We're operating on an inquiry basis, but we hope that within the next year or so, when we know a little bit more about where the trends are going, that we'll have the name brand recognition as well as our optimized tech platform, so that it can become a little bit more automated, because right now it's just super manual.
So you think to have an e-commerce as well in the future?
Yes, we definitely want to operate similarly to an OTA, but not different business operations.
And what is the business model? Like, you charge a commission, or?
Yeah, so we're doing a 10% commission, which I think is pretty price competitive, and it's very attractive for the people that we're talking to. And then also we are working to monetize the Sustainable Seed, which is our online travel magazine, and through affiliate marketing. And then also we're hosting right now virtual experiences and events, just to try to make some, in the meantime, revenue in the meantime, and help out these businesses.
That's an amazing idea, Jaclyn. I really love it. What is the best way to
Simone,
get it?
Simone, sorry to interrupt you. So we need another OTA.
So we need another OTA. Yes.
Sustainable intermediation 10%.
I think I have a lot of thoughts, strong opinions on the monopoly platforms. And so I've kind of just taken everything that I don't necessarily appreciate from the large scale multinational corporation platforms, and kind of adapting my business model to be favorable for the businesses that are on the platform.
Makes sense. Makes a little sense. Okay, that's great. So what is the best way to get in touch with you? So the Ecomadic.com is the website.
Yeah.
Do you want to share your email address as well?
Yeah, sure. I can share my email address, and it's just Jaclyn@ecomadic.com. And then always feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Okay, we're just sharing it now with Federica and LinkedIn profile. Okay, thank you so much, Jaclyn, for that. It's a very amazing idea. It's really great. And Kate, so
hi.
Let's talk a little about Skift. There's not much to say about Skift. I think everybody in the industry knows you guys.
I hope they do, but they might not.
If they, let's say I'm an alien and I get and I come to the Planet Art for the first time, and I want to open a hotel, and I want to find a source of news, trustworthy source of news. So tell me more about Skift.
Well, you've said all those key words there that I've ticked off, so we're all of that. But I suppose our role, Skift's role in the industry, is really about ciphering and defining what's going on, really aiming at kind of doing it at such a pace and at such a speed, mainly for kind of CEOs, the whole C-suite and CMOs, people that are making 1,000 decisions a day to future-proof their business. and they need to do it so quickly. So we strip all the jargon away. We talk in a very specific tone. I'm sure you can agree that the Skift tone kind of cuts through the BS. It summarizes it. And the aim is to make sure that people feel informed and knowledgeable so they can do the best job. Skift actually means transformation and change in Nordic. So it's very reflective of kind of how
I didn't know that.
it is. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day.
Yeah, that's true.
But we've built an ecosystem of, as I said, all those decision makers that are coming to Skift because they trust what we say. They know we're going to give them those kind of really top trend lines so that they can make better day-to-day decisions. But in that kind of ecosystem, our portfolio is made up of an editorial stream, a research team. So we do deep dive research on such a scale, and people can opt in as subscribers or enterprise subscribers and consume that. But we also do marketing, conferences or virtual conferences at the moment, and it's kind of the hub. So when people start new jobs in travel and they're brand new to the industry, 9 times this is where you get sent to kind of go and cut your teeth and absorb all that information.
I really like the fact that even though Skift has a voice, like a tone of voice that is easily recognizable, right? You know that you're reading something on Skift the moment you start reading something. But I really like the fact that the writers themselves, they have a voice. Like when you read Sean, you know that is Sean, it's still Skift, but that's Sean, or when you write Rafat has this very strong voice. And how do you work with all these talents with so different voices and try to get this one tone of voice?
Our editor-in-chief, Tom Lowry, works very closely with Rafat to kind of define what that Skift voice is. And we're really, really clear about what our mission is. It's kind of like making sure whatever we're putting out there, we're holding it to the same standard, which allows all these kind of different voices to come through, but we're still holding our content, our events, our research, whatever that might be, to that same kind of framework, because it's a very specific mission, right? We want to make sure that we're always giving value. But you're right, it's funny, you could probably read a piece on Skift and kind of cover up who wrote it, and someone who's a regular reader or user will kind of know who wrote it straight away.
And I think that's great. I think that's the real skill of a good writer, is the fact that you can recognize him, like after 3 rows, you know exactly who is writing, and you don't even have to look at the name. And it's something that it's always fascinating to me when I read Skift. It's such strong voices under this beautifully crafted, unique tone of voice. So it's Skift, but it's that particular guy or girl in Skift, right?
Yeah.
And tell me more about the events that you do. So now they're only online, of course, but I know you do a lot of real events as well.
Yes, we do. And our flagship event is actually coming up in a little over a week. So we normally host our global forum. It's normally a 3-day event in New York where we have kind of 1,300 C-suite attendees come to New York, and it is really a day of thought leadership. So we have kind of the powerhouse CEOs from across the industry talking on stage, but we also then kind of break out into deep dive discussions, lots of networking, etc. Obviously, that's a huge part of our business, and so it's not safe for us to meet. It's not safe for us to host at the moment. So we have pivoted online. We are hosting virtually, and we've already done a couple of events already. We had our European forum back in June. So our global forum, which is a week on Monday. So if anyone would like a cheeky mates rates discount, inbox me, catch me on LinkedIn, catch me on Twitter, and I'll give you a code to come and check it out. It's going to be incredible. It's really kind of taken what we do and been able to do it in the virtual space. And I think for us moving forward, hybrid events is definitely the way to go. So we'll be looking at how we evolve and kind of take into consideration the success we've had virtually and kind of also the success that we have face to face. So it's going to be great. It's a really, really good event.
This is not the first virtual event you do, no? Right.
No, we started kind of straight off the bat in March. We had a series of events that was called Travel's Path Forward, where on I think it was bi-weekly, we would dive into specific areas, sectors, or discussions. So we had great success with that. Just the droves of people, the demand for information since this pandemic hit we've never been busier. Our engagement rates have been up, and it's just meant that the industry is kind of searching for answers right now. So we hosted that series. We also hosted our Forum Europe, and we've also had a number of forums coming up for the rest of the year as well. So we are very busy.
And you produce such an amazing amount of work every day. I mean, like I got at least a couple of newsletters a day with at least 5 articles in them. How many writers do you have?
Our team is really lean. I think writers-wise, obviously we have our in-house guys, and we get freelancers from around the world to kind of represent and have their voices on Skift as well. But it's not as many as you think. I think at the moment it's under 10.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you think about the way the pandemic has kind of hit those guys, they've been staring down the barrel of this pandemic since kind of it started showing in December. So we are slowly but surely releasing some of those writers into the world to have a little break, because they would be like this for weeks and weeks on end. But you're right, they are pumping out stories. They are doing investigative research and investigative journalism day in, day out. So we have definitely kept them busy. But yeah, it goes to show there's a lot to talk about right now. And majority of it's COVID related, but that's kind of easing up in the last couple of weeks and months. So
yeah, it's great. And, you know, I think one good sign of early recovery is when you start seeing some more non-coronavirus related news in Skift, right?
Yeah.
So you can use it as a barometer, you know, to understand where the world is going. So
totally. And I think some products that have come out as a result of the pandemic for us in the research space, we have the recovery index that we launched, and we also have a health index that we launched. And they have been key in kind of pushing the industry to kind of like check the facts and go, okay, where are we? What do we need to do? Because this is an ongoing index that we're releasing, and we work with a bunch of different clients across the industry to kind of work out where we are right now. And it's been well received. People are using this on a daily basis and kind of coming to check in. So yeah, we're busier than ever.
So what's the best way to get in touch with you? Like if you want to buy a report, it's skift.com or your email directly?
Yeah, I would definitely say head over to skift.com. The team are there to help. You can get in touch with us. All of our details are on the About Us page. If you want to become a partner and you want to work with us and use the ecosystem to promote your business, then absolutely reach out to me specifically. You can find me on LinkedIn, and my details are on skift.com as well. And also, if you want to come to Skift Global Forum, give me a shout and I will share a discount code with you to come and attend.
So we can have a digital special discount, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, hey, thank you so much for that. And okay, so we talked for a little over 70 minutes. Sorry for taking this too long, but it was very interesting. So Kate and Jaclyn, thank you so much for being with us today. Really, really appreciate it. Mark and Federica, great job as usual. And Enzo, let's wrap it up and let's go back to you.
Yeah, just last question for everyone. Just let me know, give me some inspiration for this weekend.
What do you want to do?
Beach.
Okay.
You live in Barcelona. You can go to the beach whenever you want. Like, do something different.
Yeah, that's true. I was actually chatting with a friend a couple of days ago. He said, "Did you finish your vacation?" I said, "I'm always in vacation. I work only 2 weeks a year." What about you, Kate? Well, you are in quarantine?
I am. So I will be really starting a new book. I will probably take my dog for a walk and wander out in fresh air.
Netflix at the end of the day. Yeah, let's see. What about you, Jaclyn?
I'm actually leaving for 7 weeks on Sunday. We're doing a cross-country contactless road trip. So yeah, I'm excited. Get to see the part of America, and so it will be pretty. See all the trees changing colors and get to explore a little bit in nature.
Come visit Clearwater.
I will. I'll let you know. My sister actually lives in Jacksonville, so I do come down there sometimes.
Great.
When I hear this name, Clearwater, Jacksonville, it sounds to me like, kind of 70s series, starting with the hatch, like, Jacksonville likes, it's high Oregon and policy. Jacksonville is running in the road,
I wonder what Fede's going to do. Is she going to do another TikTok for us?
Maybe. No, but I think, I will try with the beach, with the seaside, because today was raining here a little bit. So, but on the weekends, I think the weather will be better. So, from aside this, and also we have a family celebration of my parents' wedding anniversary. So, it will be a mix. Yeah.
Cool. Simone, how about you?
I'm happy if I can sleep.
Man,
New dad.
You make
That's
me
the goal.
worry, man. Make me
Deadline.
worry. Sleeping weekend. It's okay. It's okay. At some point, I know I gotta take a flight and see you in Paris.
Whenever you want.
All right, cool guys. Thanks for your tips. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your expertise, knowledge. But one thing is very important, guys. Remember that the show must go on.
On FunnelTV.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Ciao, guys.
Ciao,
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.